right, everybody. Sorry for the technical difficulties. We're gonna go ahead and get things started here, and we're gonna fix a couple of the smaller fires whenever we move in. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere, and we're gonna come back with Chameleon Twist 100% race with Cyanide Gunner and Lively Raccoon. Stay tuned. Did you? I don't know if you heard me talking there, Kevin.
I couldn't hear you at all. No, you were muted. You were muted on Discord.
Okay.
Yeah. Whatever. I got your DM. I got your DM. Sorry if it was a moment late.
Are we live? Hello.
We are live. Let's just go.
We have two audios.
Oh, lovely. Well, hello everybody. This is going to be the Chameleon Twist 100% US race. Before we get started, though, there was a bid war for character choice. Let's go ahead and take a look at that now and see where that poll stands. Okay, looks like Fred is in first. Not much of a shocker there. And Linda is in second. It's a very close, actually, a very close second. So you all do with that what you will, and then we'll get this race started. Also, introduce yourselves. We're here with Cyanide Gunner and Lively Raccoon.
Hello.
Hello, I'm Lively.
I'm Cy. Hello.
Also on commentary is the lovely Ama Humahaba. Another fellow Twister. Say hello, Ama.
Hello, how's it going?
All right, looks like we got Cyanide is going to be Fred, I believe. Actually, who are y'all going to be? How's this going to work here exactly, guys?
I won the coin flip, so I got Fred and Lively got Linda.
I'm being forced against my will to play Linda.
I was gonna say, I know you don't like playing not Fred.
You can play Linda. You can play Fred if you want me to play Linda. I don't mind.
It's all right.
Okay.
All right. Well, we're ready to get this race started. So whenever you guys are ready, go right ahead.
3, 2, 1, go. Good luck.
All right, so this is Chameleon Twist 100%, and the fastest way to play this is on the US version of the game. A large portion of this, if I'm not mistaken, is due to the glitches that they'll use later in the game. So we're starting off with their primary goal is to collect all of the crowns in every stage, and then beat the game. So right now we're going to see probably fairly similar movement for a while. They're in jungle land, so this is the beginning of the game, and it's a very relatively basic stage. So you won't see a ton of strat variation until we enter some of the later levels. And this one's very straightforward. Outside of that vault you see there, the outside is pretty much played as you might expect the game was intended to be played, until we enter the cave here shortly.
That is one cool thing about this category in particular, is we actually get to see the cave in Jungle Land. Every other category just simply skips it.
Yes, and it's a really cool area. I was always kind of disappointed that it's not available to any percent, really.
Very
so
close race so far.
Cave. Yes, this is pretty close to exact, honestly. And so what we're going to see here is they're going to do some very specifically placed spins in some of these rooms. They'll move to like specific textures on the floors usually, and they have to destroy all four of these spider nests to collect the 4 crowns, which oddly is faster to go in this zigzag shape. Kind of difficult move here that they're both doing to retract over to this crown and then spin to the tracks. It's very easy to mess that up. And then they have to defeat these golems to collect the crowns that they have, and it also opens the doors. And so now we're going into probably one of the harder rooms in the stage. It's got one trick that's kind of... it's relatively precise, and you don't have a lot of time to set it up. So they're going to death warp back to the beginning of the room and jump off the edge, and while they're in the air, they have to tongue over with a certain tongue shape, grab the pole and spin. And if the tongue isn't correct, you'll see what you just saw, where they'll fall.
Yeah, it's a very easy thing to end up happening as well. Unfortunately, it's not like the most precise trick, but it's a lot more precise than it looks.
Yeah, and it's an easy one. It's a reset point for the stage for sure. And now we're entering Lizard Kong, which is the first boss. The names are all kind of goofy, where you have to collect butterflies and just shoot them off the edge. But the times that they're shooting them are very calculated, because any other time he has invulnerability, so you can't actually hit him. And so that's Jungle Land. Both relatively good performances there. And so now we're going to enter Antland. And their routes may vary. Some players play a little differently. This stage there's a lot going on in it. I think a lot of people tend to enjoy the stage itself, but once we reach the boss fight, that's where things get a little rough.
There's also quite a bit of RNG in this level, so we'll start seeing some more variance in who's ahead and who's behind just based on that alone, more than likely.
Absolutely. And what we're going to see here is a door clip from Lively and now from Psy. And this is actually one of those big points that can really change who's in the lead. Because they basically have to vault twice, and it's pretty close to, if not frame perfect.
There we go.
And those are tricks that plague everybody that runs these categories.
Really?
And so some of these jumps are incredibly precise, so when you're doing these corner-to-corner jumps, it is not hard to have stuff, fall a couple times in a room like that. And then these ant rooms where you see the spinning rooms, there's some RNG to how long the spins take. So that's where some time can be lost as well. So now here, what you're going to see is Lively's going to pause and save the game. And so this is a secret that is going to be used later in the run.
Yeah, it's going to get a little confusing to explain how that works, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there, I guess.
And so these ant line rooms can be a little tough because obviously you want to go through them without hitting the ants, but overall quite solid.
I really want to get this damageless.
And so
Nice.
most of this level is a lot of more than basic platforming, but not a bunch of really crazy tricks. But because there's so much stuff in the way the whole time, it tends to be a very easy stage to lose some time in. And once again, so these rooms, there's basically 2 of each puzzle in several of the stages, if not all of them. And so here we're in the second spinning RNG room, and you have to collect all of the ants, and once all of the ants have been killed, the room lets you exit.
just to show how much RNG and the door clips can come into play, the race has slowly started to kind of catch back up to itself here and get a lot closer.
That was really
pretty
good
interesting.
RNG for me.
Absolutely.
That was an instant stop.
And as you can see, the walking is very tight in these. I think are they referred to as the marching rooms or something like that.
Yeah.
So now we enter Ant Bullet Hell on Lively's side. This is a rough road, especially in the Japanese version, but in the US version, it's still very, very difficult to get through there without taking any damage. And so we're going to see Lively entering the boss for Antland, and this is Quintella. This is pretty commonly believed to be the hardest boss in the game. It's a pretty difficult fight. You have a lot of manipulating where Quintella walks and where the ants are. And then there's actually some tricks to make the fight a little faster. So each time you hit Quintella, which takes 5 hits to kill, she spins an extra time. And you can actually do a thing called a spin cancel, where you spin into Quintella while she's starting a spin, I believe is how it works. And it'll actually cancel that spin. So that is a more advanced trick. It's not necessarily a marathon-friendly strat, depending on what your life totals are. But it looks like they're both doing pretty good here.
That's close.
This is probably the biggest reset point for most people in the game.
I would argue it's also a pretty big reset point for the all levels run too.
Absolutely. And probably the longest, it's definitely the longest room in the game. It's about as long as a lot of stages almost. And so, the boss spawns 6 ants at the beginning. It's pretty tough to only collect 1 for each cycle, but that is required if you want to do, or that's required with 1 room for error.
That's pretty good.
If you want to do regular 5-cycle boss fight. So now we have Lively and Cyanide Gunner entering Kids Land, and this stage is probably the most difficult one to learn and execute consistently.
In every category.
Yes, in every category, actually. Every single moving platform in this stage is on a global cycle. So the second that you enter the stage, everything is moving all the way to the end of the stage. And so there are points where if you miss, if you're half a second late, that half a second is the same thing as being 10 seconds late. Because at the end of the stage, there's a cycle that you need to make that takes somewhere between like 8 and 11 seconds, I believe. So you're going to see they're going to be needing to be really precise, and the cycles, there are several cycles that we have here. The most likely ones to see are going to be Stride Cycle, I believe, and Popcorn Cycle.
That is correct. Stride being the fastest one that people have hit in this category to date, and then Popcorn Cycle being kind of the middle, sort of average cycle that you would expect to see a practice runner hit.
And then I believe there's actually a faster cycle that has not been hit, correct?
Yeah.
That is correct.
As well as there's one more lower cycle, I believe, that is calculated before they stop getting named, but I'm trying to recall what that is called.
I don't remember what the lower cycle is called either, actually.
Let me take a look.
I know the faster cycle that people haven't hit yet we call Cycle.
Yes.
Or just Cycle,
It's
which is
Cycle.
funny.
So it is Safe Cycle. So Safe Cycle would be the slowest cycle that we track.
No, Cycle is the faster one that nobody's hit yet.
Correct. And Safe Cycle is the
Oh yeah, Safe. That's what it was called. Safe
slower
Cycle.
than Popcorn Cycle.
Very forgettable name, to be fair.
And so anytime you see them enter a room, just like Lively just exited and I just entered, if there's moving platforms in this stage, there are chocolate bars with pulls on them, or gift boxes with pulls. Those are the
Oh, my PC's frozen. Oh no.
cycle rooms, and if they have to wait around to make a movement, they...
Getting a little bit of
Oh,
soup.
looks like we lost
Side.
some feed here. Oh, are we back?
We good?
We're back. Looks like, yep.
Okay. And so the room that Lively's in and Sai is about to enter, those platforms spawn, they light up in a random starting point, and once they start lighting up, it's two platforms away is the next one that's lit up. So these are the RNG rooms, and these can determine which cycles you're capable of making.
Interestingly enough, in any percent, we just skip those puzzles altogether by clipping through the door, which is super precise. So a lot of people don't really bother with that in 100%.
Yeah, it's a longer, significantly longer run, so there's a lot on the line to do that. Then we get to take a nice calm ride on some platforms, which is a fairly unusual thing for this game, to just stand around. And this jump to this crown is pretty weird. There's very bad perspective for what angle you need to fall at.
Yeah, interestingly enough, that pretty much tied the race back in as well.
Yep.
That's fun.
Absolutely. And now we might see... Oh, no, that's not in this category. Okay. So they have to wait around on platforms longer because there's crowns later in the level. And so this is the final level in the room. Very, very difficult room. Every time we see somebody playing this game for the first time, it takes them... It might take them a half hour to get through this room. It's quite difficult. A lot of lag and several cycles. All moving platforms, and so this is where we would typically know which cycles people are on.
Popcorn.
And it looks like we have popcorn cycle and living nightmare cycle.
Yeah, we'll call it mystery
Hey,
cycle.
I got pause.
And we
And
did
so
have
which-
one pause glitch. Nice, yeah.
And so the pause glitch is actually pressing pause frame perfectly. So there's one frame where you can press pause, and then so what's going to happen is they're going to save, and the pause saves about 10 seconds because it skips the cutscene, and they're going to enter training room, and then they're going to re-enter their save file, and so this allows them to skip the cutscene and do this one cycle cake fight. Which previously was possible, but it was incredibly difficult, and then Run in a Week actually found this really cool tech where you vault and then grab all of the kids out of the cake to kill it in a single cycle. And it took the trick from being a top level trick to something that's just done in every single person's run now.
So now we have both runners going into Bombland, and we're going to be seeing the reason we saved the game in Antland earlier come into play here. It's to do a very interesting glitch. I'll let Amma attempt to explain it because it's kind of complex, honestly.
It's a pretty goofy one. So what you're going to see here is Sai is just saving to exit the stage, and he's going to load back into his earlier save in Antland, collect some ants, and then enter back into his save in Bombland. And so what's happening is he's collecting specific ants because in every room, every item in that room has an object or an actor ID. And so the ones that he carried when he walked through the door as he loaded through his Bombland loading zone, those actor IDs populated into the Chameleon because they hadn't populated when he saved or when he exited Antland. So now that allows him to spit those out and collect any items that are in those object ID slots, which is very often a bunch of crowns that are difficult to get to. And so we actually do that a few times in Bombland, so we're doing it again. And so what you're going to see here is he's actually going to collect pretty specific things, and if I remember right, you can't collect that heart. But now when he walks through this doorway, he has a full storage of all of the object IDs that he had selected. And so when he spits them out in this room, he's going to collect those items in this room. It's a remarkably confusing trick. It was actually, if I remember correctly, it was discovered by Quill and all the fish when it accidentally happened through the demo. If you allow the demo to play until the chameleon has ants on its tongue, and then start your game, you'll actually activate storage. And you'll have whatever those actor IDs are from the demo, because the demo is actually just gameplay. And so that has been meticulously improved, and Sai is arguably, unless I've missed something, the architect of storage at this point.
Yeah, the history behind that is Quill noticed kind of what was happening. I experimented with it a little in the last level of the game and uploaded a video, I want to say like 2 or 3 years ago. And then we didn't really understand much about it. And then Sai came along and troubleshooted the entire thing.
And so what we saw happen here was Lively is going for a close to frame perfect or frame perfect. I don't remember with this door.
That bomb snake kill though.
Door clip. And they can be very difficult to get on your first try. And so by reloading the room, he was able to remove that lava on the floor and have another shot at it. And so we do the same thing here, and this is actually a very difficult door clip. This requires you to walk for a single frame before the second vault. So now Sai is entering Desert Castle. This is my favorite stage in this category. A lot of platforming. This is almost purely platforming and a lot less small tricks. But it's also a very long stage, and it's very easy to lose a lot of time here.
What's happening?
This stage is also on a global cycle, or some parts are on global and some parts are on loading zone cycles, I believe. So these platforms here that you're seeing on Sai's screen were moving from the second he entered the stage. And what he was going for there is a very difficult thing to do, where you can vault through the bottom of the platforms to attempt to jump from under them. But it's a very tight vault that requires you to get a max height, and then sometimes you still just don't even make it.
I have no idea what cycling on, by the way.
So
And there, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Anna. You're good.
I was just going to say there are some measurable cycles in this stage, but there's not a lot of visual reference for them that's very good, because they're all the same. Like, there's not a bunch of platforms that are moving near each other to be able to tell. So we've actually got a pretty close race here now. You're going to see Sai Death Warp, and same with Lively, and that's just to put them near this platform that they need to ride up. And we're going to see one of the more difficult tricks in this stage is this vault that they're both about to do. They're going to attempt to vault on this platform and collect a crown that's off the platform without leaving it. And if you fail it, you have to collect the crown by falling. So it does save quite a lot of time. And that, if I remember correctly, Sai made that up while we were teching that maze area. I may be wrong. I don't want to give incorrect credit. And so now we get stuck on these, not stuck, but we get slowed down on this sand slide because you're restricting your movement to the speed of the sand. It's a very weird point because you also don't want to get hit by these boulders and you can't move. So you really have to land where you need to be. So we have a little bit of movement here to vault over some edges. Very, very awkward area where it's very easy to like miss your lines.
Oh, wow.
A couple of strats here. Sai is going for what's called Spike Walk, where I believe it's very close to pixel perfect to be able to walk along the edge of those spikes without deactivating them. And I believe it saves around 4 seconds.
Yeah, the fact that Sai went for that in a marathon is kind of nuts, but it actually caught Sai back up quite a bit. We've got a super close race going on here. Whoa.
Yeah, that was a very smart move. And he probably the best person at it, I would suspect.
Yeah, either Sai or Run, one of the two for sure.
Oh yeah, Run actually has been the world record holder for this quite a few times, and may currently be.
Run has any percent, I'm pretty sure. I think I have 100% DC record.
Oh, okay, yep. Very nice.
Motion sickness warning, by the way, just for the carpets.
Oh yeah, the carpets with this scrolling skybox is pretty crazy. And this part is just kind of sit and wait and then jump when the carpets are close enough. It's very pretty calm rest before you jump back in. The rest of this stage is relatively smooth. There's a couple crowns to collect, and you gotta jump through some sand that would slow you down otherwise. But there are these pretty terrifying little orb monsters that they're not the easiest thing to hit, but they're definitely always a threat.
I'm gonna ask for
Especially
quiet
the
for
large
the audio
one.
cue for this fight, just for the first half.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're good.
And so what was happening here is they collect all the projectiles that the boss provides in the beginning of the fight by sticking the tongue out straight. And then they're waiting for audio cues. Boss, a couple of frames after it emerges from the sand so that they don't spend extra time trying to fight it.
Yeah, the boss normally will bounce around and drop more enemies that you can shoot the boss with. And essentially, they're skipping any of the bouncing around stuff by just preemptively shooting the boss as it comes out of the dirt.
Yep. And now we enter Ghost Castle, so this is the final stage of the game. And once again, we're using this storage trick to collect, it looks like 3 ants, if I remember correctly.
Billiards.
We are going to enter probably the hardest late game trick, which is billiards.
And it's gone.
So it's a very angle specific thing, and it's not intuitive at all. And I'm not sure what the strat looks like, but Kefka might recognize it if we get tater shots.
Yeah, looks like Lively went for tater shots, but was slightly misaligned, so the red ball didn't sink in immediately. Sai, on the other hand, just had a straight-up billiards catastrophe, and it's a pretty easy thing to happen. Billiards is really difficult. There's not really a way to fully normalize it without being extremely precise.
And this area probably has killed as many runs as have been completed. It's very, very difficult.
Very unfortunate that it's also in the last level of the run.
Yes,
There we go.
absolutely. Also, fun fact with the strat that Lively was using, tater shots, it was actually created by Kefka's dad, Tater Beef Jerky.
That last shot by Sai was really nice, that corner pocket shot. I gotta say, that was smooth.
Oh, absolutely. And so this stage has most most of the rooms in this stage are incredibly difficult because they've just been so optimized at this point. So what you're going to see here is Lively enters this rotating room, and he has to move towards the top so that he can cross these now sideways bookcases and collect a couple of crowns up here. And I don't know if he's going to go for it, but there's a very tight piece of movement here. Okay, no. I don't think it's personally worth it, but there's a very tight jump that you can do to avoid having to vault.
Yeah, the interesting thing about seeing the library, and billiards, I guess, but more so library, is Ghost Castle is one of the few levels where the path actually splits and you can take one of two different ways to actually progress through the stage. And you don't get to see this side of the level size in here at all in any other category other than 100%. So it's quite nice to see just a couple of, exclusive areas.
Absolutely. And I actually like a lot of the rooms that get avoided in any percent. There's some really cool stuff in this game. So we're going to see Lively do some more storage. This is a big piece of storage, and that's because there's a lot of enemies that we need to kill in this next room. And it's a whole lot easier to do it by just storing all of them and then shooting them as projectiles. And so he's going to enter this room, activate the storage, and you can see the chameleons getting larger. And now we're going to shoot some very specific candles that are not stored, and then fire all the ones that are stored, and it should kill most to all of the candles.
It's the fourth.
And then once all the candles in the room are gone, you get a crown. And we'll see Sai do the same thing. That's one of those pretty much necessary strats of the category. So these mirrors, one of them will randomly be the one you need to kill. And when you do, it makes some glass breaking noise and opens the door for you. And now we have the candle platforms, which is one of the tougher areas in the room, in the game, because there's a lot of really precise jumps that you have to make, especially if you want to do what Lively just did there and skip some platforms. So every candle lights up a specific platform that exists in a seemingly random space on its own track. So they can exist in several different locations, and which one you get, you're not really sure until it highlights it.
Another interesting difference between the candle rooms on this version and the Japanese version, which more of you guys are probably familiar with, is that the flames don't spawn near as fast, so these rooms take quite a bit longer on the US version.
Yep, the flames are incredibly slow to spawn, so if you can skip a platform, that's a huge amount of value added. And also, the platforms themselves don't despawn very quickly. In the Japanese version, you barely make it off of some of the platforms before they're despawning. So this stage is a pretty good one for highlighting some regional differences. And so Lively's going to collect a flame before he enters what is mirror 2. So there's 4 mirrors in here, and there's a 25% chance that each one has the door unlock, and he got it first try, so that's awesome. Now we have to collect a whole bunch of flames in this room in order to kill all the enemies in the room. And it's best to do it with this camera angle so that you don't get all the lag that's added by loading a bunch of other stuff on the screen. And so we'll need to collect a little bit more.
Sai getting absolutely terrible RNG in the second mirror room there. The 4th mirror, you hate to see it.
Yeah, that's rough. That's something you just can't plan around. It's like it happens or it doesn't. And so we're in Boardwalk. There's some pretty tight platforming here, and we got what's called Cuss Vault, where he just vaulted on top of this pole. Very precise trick that's used in both categories. And then we're going to head into the boss. And so this is Pile of Books. It is a monster comprised of a lot of objects from the stage, and the first wave of the fight you have to break the pool ball arms. And so we got the faster you do it, there's cycles that the arms come in and out. It looks like Sai's making his way into books right now as well. And so now he turns into a tank that can move a random up to 3 amounts of times, and it's actually different in both versions. But it also can shoot either straight or curved, and it's better to get a straight shot into a curved shot, just like this, and that's a kill. You have to hit books with, is it 7 or 8 shots?
It's actually 6. If you assume he doesn't heal the health, it is.
Okay, yeah, and he heals after a couple of frames, I believe.
Looks like we see a 31-30 to a 31-50. Very close race, all things considered.
Absolutely, very good race.
Hey, good job, guys. Great race.
GG. I knew you'd
It's
win.
nice to see the race close like that. And yeah, that pile of books fight takes quite a while for people to get good at like that. And it relies on movement and attack pattern RNG. So you can get into books on steady world record pace and still just lose the run to RNG. It's pretty wild.
Been there. Not fun.
All right. Well, that was a lovely race. That being said, coming up next, we have Super Sammy Roll with everybody's favorite Quill and all the fish. Would you guys have any closing remarks before we move on to the next run?
Use shift to put attacks to use attack wieners.
That is actually a thing in the manual.
I got nothing.
Lovely. Well, again, GG guys, fantastic race. We got to see a lot of successes, a lot of heartbreaks. I think it's about everything you want out of a race, honestly.
Absolutely, that was a great performance. I think it showcased a pretty good showcase of 100%, honestly. Like, there are some things that are going to happen in runs, but overall it was really good.
I'm happy with that. And thanks for having us.
Absolutely. All right, well, we'll get moving on to this next run shortly. Don't click away. And thanks again, guys.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.